What's up, everybody? Welcome to Move the Sticks. DJ and Buck with you as we react to a crazy weekend of divisional round football. We know our finalists now. We got the final four, Buck, but just as soon as we're getting ready to get talking about that, this is the coaching cycle that never ends, man.
No, it never ends. The Buffalo Bills move on from Sean McDermott following the loss in the divisional round. And DJ, I think the thing about this, and maybe why it troubled me so, is I tweeted this out. Like, one, I'm sitting here looking at Sean McDermott's record, right? And I just think about how hard it is to get consistently into the tournament. And I'm like 9 seasons, 8 playoff appearances, 98-50 regular season record, 5 AFC East titles. And up until this year, they owned the AFC East. And the reason it resonates with me is because when I was in Buffalo playing, Marv Levy, when they went to 4 straight Super Bowls, they talked about, we want to dominate the division, because if you dominate the division, it guarantees you a lottery ticket to the tournament. And so when we think about the tournament, I'm like, man, the Buffalo Bills have always been in the tournament in his era. And people talked about, yeah, but like they got to the championship game, divisional round, they haven't gone to the Super Bowl. And I tweeted this. It reminded me of the debate that we've had where we talked about in baseball. In the 90s and 2000s, would you rather be the Atlanta Braves or the Florida Marlins? The Atlanta Braves won 1 million division titles. Yep. They won 1 World Series. The Florida Marlins sucked for most of 2 decades, but they won 2. So would you rather win 2 and then go to anonymity and then come back and win another one? Or would you rather always be in the conversation? And I feel like that's where we're training to in the National Football League, where owners are like, yeah, I don't care about being good all the time. I just want to win it, and then I'll deal with it after I win it. And I just think that's a faulty strategy to take, because I think it's so hard to just say, hey, we can catch lightning in the bottle, we're going to win it, and then I'm good. I just don't think that's a realistic thing.
That's a great analogy. I had always used the Utah Jazz as an analogy.
Like, that's a great one. That's a great one.
Year, but couldn't get over the hump to finish it. And I don't know what the equivalent to that would be. I don't know if that's like the Mavs or somebody or some other kind of one-off. It's
the Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah, they got one. They got their one. I guess it comes from a place of just because of my fandom, which I only really am a fan of one team of professional sports, because everything else is kind of work related. But I'm a baseball fan. I'm a Padre fan. And I'm like, man, I've been to the playoffs 4 of the last 6 years, but if you told me we could only go once and get a ring, I would have been like, oh yeah, I just want that one experience.
And I would say this, I know you well enough to know that no, because here's what we know. Once you start winning, you want to win again. It becomes an obsession, right? It would be like the Cubs people, when the Cubs finally won one, and they're like, oh, I can die and go to heaven because the Cubs have finally won. Yeah. But you know what? Shortly thereafter, they fired Joe Madden because they want to win again. Like, that's not, when we say that, that's not true. We want to win, and we want to win at a high level. And I appreciate that. But I also think you have to be in it. And I know your heart has been broken a few times with the Padres, but this is much better than not going to the playoffs at all. Right. Yeah. Like, you at least want to be in the conversation.
I think this going back to the Bills, it was a window, for them. And it was the Tom Brady dynasty for 20 years where they ran things. And then Tom Brady exits, and not to take shots, but you've got the Jets and the Dolphins in this division. Like, this is not a juggernaut division. And now the Patriots are out of the mix. So now you got sole ownership of this division for that period of years with a MVP quarterback.
Right.
And you never got to a Super Bowl, much less won a Super Bowl. And I think now it isn't just that, it's that, great. Now the Patriots are back.
Yeah. And
they're back. They got a quarterback now, and they're back, and we missed our window. That's what it feels like. And guess what? The Jets and the Dolphins still stink.
And your analogy might be even better than mine, because the Utah Jazz is exactly who it feels like, because Buffalo did all the right things, but Pat Mahomes was the stopping point. Yeah. Right. The Kansas City Chiefs prevented them from realizing their potential, because they get past the Chiefs. You say, okay, they maybe win a Super Bowl, because the Chiefs were the team, 3 out of 5 Super Bowls.
They go 5 out of 6.
Right. 5 out of 6. I mean, And I also think that dynasty on the heels of the Patriots dynasty has owners kind of warped into thinking how the league operates, right? So the Patriots go to 8 or 9 under Tom Brady, right? They go however many they go. They lose some, they win 5 or 6 or whatever they won. Then the Chiefs come right after that. They go to 5, they win 3. So there's an expectation that this league is dynastic in terms of how you dominate at the top. I just think it's very hard to operate like that. And I think as a team builder, you would like to build a team that's always in the hunt. We're always there and in the mix.
But don't you also see it from the standpoint of, okay, you've had this roadblock, which has been the Chiefs. And now the Chiefs are mortal. Now the nicest house on the street is up for sale. And you're seeing the Ravens, you're seeing the Bills, these teams saying, well, hold up, this is our time. This is available. It's open. We've talked about this AFC field. There's nothing in this AFC field that scares anybody. So you're sitting there thinking, oh, we got to go, man. We got to make our change. We got to take our shot. Cause right now there is no king in the AFC.
So then my thing would say, all right, do your actions match your goals when it comes to the way you built the team? And I would say of all those Buffalo teams that we've seen during that window, this was the weakest Buffalo team that I've seen during that time. Yeah. When I look at what they have 3 blue chip players, Deion Dawkins, James Cook, and Josh Allen. There's no one else on that roster that we would universally celebrate as a high-end elite player. And so if that's the case where we're looking at the window and saying like, hey man, 2025 is the year that we can go run through the regular season and do it. Did they make a major move to upgrade? Did they make a trade? Did they, you know what I'm saying? Did they put the pieces in place to push their chips all in to say they're going to do it? Or did they build up to this crescendo? Because one thing I can say about Howie and the Eagles, I felt like that year, Saquon Barkley, like they pushed the chips in like, hey, we're going for it or whatever. And I can't say that Buffalo did the same thing. We knew they didn't have a number 1 receiver. They didn't go make a move to go and acquire a receiver. They didn't get George Pickens or somebody. They might have been in the conversation, but they didn't land a marquee guy that pushed them over the top. So I understand the frustration, but then I would say, yeah, but your team doesn't match what your desires are. So how can we really all the way be mad about what it is?
They have a roster full, outside of those guys you mentioned, of good players that are high floor, steady eddies. And we've talked about this, and I know you've thrown a number on it in terms of just the number of blue chippers that you need to have, like elite players. Like they don't have that collection of elite players. Because guess what? The teams that we've talked about that have been on these runs, it was crunch time, and it was a combination of Kelsey at a time. It was Tyreek Hill. It was Chris Jones to close out games. It was Patrick Mahomes there every single time. Like they had, and then you even look into like Trent McDuffie's a top 3 to 5 corner in the league.
The linebackers were playing at an elite level. So when we talk about that, like that is what it is. It's playing at that level. I think when we've gone through and we did the exercise where it was 3 defensive playmakers on each side, it was a lineman, it was a quarterback or whatever, it ended up being 12. So I've taken part of what you said, part of what I learned in Carolina when they would use the old Bill Polian thing where you got to have 8 to 12, and all of that marries. I think sometimes we do a disservice in the media because we talk so much about the quarterback that we've created this fallacy that a quarterback can lift any roster to championship heights. And that's simply not true. The quarterback is the biggest piece, the most essential piece that you must have. But man, the teams that win Super Bowls are really, really good teams. Like that's what it is. And the feedback, people are like, well, why are the Patriots there? Like, why are the Broncos there? And I say, you can make the case for the Broncos, their defense and some of the players. I say with the Patriots, here's what I would say. It's not only being universally elite, but it's being elite within that system. Mm-hmm. When I talk about the Patriots, K'Lavon Chasen, who I saw closely with the Jaguars, was not an elite player there. DJ, this year for the Patriots, he is playing at an elite level at the rate at which he's rushing the passer. Now, we can talk about system and environment or whatever, but we talked about 85% of the league are system players. You got to put them in the right system so they can maximize their talent. The Patriots have taken a collection of older players, younger players, veterans, free agents, Milton Williams, Robert Spillane. I saw Carlton Davis. Christian Gonzalez is homegrown. They have Harold Landry and some other guys that are playing really well within their system. So however we couch it, man, they're a really good team. And whatever the schedule is, the quarterback is playing really well. Stephon Diggs is still a dude in his role. They have enough where you can say, okay, I can see 8 to 10 guys that can push them over the top. It has to look like they have to play at that level, regardless of whether we say talent-wise there, but they have to play at an elite level during the course of that season.
Yeah, I think you've seen Marcus Jones as one of those playmakers,
Unbelievable player.
Yeah, he's as a returner and as a nickel. Because to go back to that, I was looking it up while you were talking. So when we broke this down, it was Championship Foundation, quarterback, 3 offensive playmakers, could be a combination of any of the skill guys, 3 quality offensive linemen, then fill in with them. 2 pass rushers, could come from inside, outside, or combination either way. And then 3 defensive playmakers, either at the linebacker secondary level. And it's interesting when you kind of use that and kind of run some of these teams through it that are still left. It is pretty interesting to see, where they are with these spots.
I don't know if you ever played spades, but like with the Patriots.
Oh, 100%.
Okay. Yeah. So it's almost like, okay, I got 2 in a possible. So I may not say that Marcus Jones is there, but if you give me Marcus Jones and Robert Spillane, that makes 1. You know what I mean? Like, you cobble it together. You're like, okay, like I can begin to picture this thing.
You got a couple jacks. You got a couple jacks in there.
Like, I might be able to manipulate. I might be able to get it. Yeah. So they've been able to do those things. And I think when you talk about the Final Four, the Patriots, we can talk about the Broncos. Now the Broncos have a tough hill to climb without you start the quarterback. But you can talk about their defense, how they rush the passer 10, some of the other guys that they have. Like, you can make that case. We talk about the Rams. We love what it looks like in the NFC because the Rams and the Seahawks, like, they're built to last.
Oh, yeah.
But those theories hold true. And as a team builder, as you're putting it together, I think you always have to view your team like that. And you always have to draft. Weak drafts, loaded drafts or not, that still has to be point of mind. Man, we got to get elite players in the building. And just because this class is this, I still don't change my grading scale to match them. They got to come up to me, or I punt until the next season or whatever it is that we're doing. But it has to be that ideal. And that's what I want the listeners and viewers to understand, man. When we're putting this together, this championship puzzle, man, we got to be tough graders. And you always got to look at it from what traditionally and historically plays at that level in those games. And you got to build your team as such.
Man, the thing that I feel worst about for McDermott is all this success. They got a new building they're going into next year. Like, it's almost like the promised land. Like, he doesn't get to go in. Like, they kind of got this thing all the way to this point, and you're hoping new building, all the excitement that comes with that. Like, can we make a championship push here? And he's gonna have to go somewhere else. I got to believe he's got to be a legit candidate for some of these openings. A million.
I will say this though, like DJ, and I told you how not distraught, but how disappointed I was when the Jags lost to the Bills, and I was walking off the field, and I don't know why I had the epiphany or the realization in that moment, just how daunting the challenge is to be a Super Bowl champion. And I have to say, man, I felt like he did some of his best coaching, particularly in the postseason with this defense. Because let's be honest, man, they should have knocked out the Denver Broncos. Like, they should, like, the turnovers and stuff, they should have knocked it. They had a great game plan. They had Bo Nix flustered. They did enough things defensively to be able to get the dub. They just didn't play well enough on offense. And unfortunately for them, their stars let them down. The quarterback and the running back, like putting the ball on the ground and turning it over and those things. And all that has to work. Because I said, like, man, you got to have talent. You got to have execution. And you got to have a little luck. You got to happen to play your best on those days. And when you don't play well, you have to have a way to get bailed out. Like the Rams, as Sean McVay said, I didn't coach my best today. But the team bailed them out. Sometimes it works like that. All
right, Buck. Let's kind of finish the thought there. Give Denver credit. Bo Nix. I hate to see that injury at the very end of the game. He's out for the rest of the playoffs. But he made, he ran around, made some plays with his legs, which he does. I had tweeted out during the game. He plays a very highly caffeinated brand of football. Like, it is just it's busy. It is jumpy and busy. But he made some big throws. Hit that dagger was a big time throw. He's impressive. It was interesting going back through my draft stuff on him. And if you remember, I had talked about him with Jalen Hurts like, hey, you could nitpick him when his best is required. He's good. He's been good. And then there's just a toughness and a grittiness and a winner factor with him. And you've seen that in the postseason. I think he's thrown it better than Jalen Hurts, more consistently than Jalen Hurts has in his career.
It's so funny, man. He's become one of my favorite players out of that class. And I think DJ, it's because of the struggles that we witnessed at Auburn before he got to Oregon. And it also is a part of the thing that we have started to look at when it comes to quarterbacks, the experience and how experience matters. And I do remember, it's funny because that class, I always have to rank top fives, but I always remember, hey, Bo's on this line somewhere. Like, I'm going to put 6 in there. Like, hey, editor, you just got to know he's right here on the bubble of what it is. And to see him and to see how it works. I mean, they talk about it as much as we talk about Caleb Williams closing out games in the fourth quarter. Caleb Williams has 7 game-winning drives, fourth quarter comebacks. Bo Nix also has 7 game-winning drives. Like, he is at his best. And I want to see how they explore this. The one thing that has happened for the Broncos, the way that he plays best works counter to the way they play defensive best. They are at their best when he is going tempo. When they go tempo, their offense has a better rhythm to it, better performance, better production. However, they can't do that because what that does is that compromises the defensive effort. But in those late stages when it's go time, you notice how quick they play because that's his sweet spot. And I'm going to say, maybe I underestimated his athleticism, his ability to elude and evade.
He can roll, man.
And get on the – hey, that is a superpower that he has. And Sean Payton leans into that. It's unfortunate that he broke his ankle and they won't have him because I don't know what this offense looks like without him as the centerpiece. Sean is a great game planner, play designer, and those things. I don't know how they tweak this thing with Jared. I don't know if their run game is strong enough to allow him to slowly acclimate to the championship level that he's going to play in this AFC championship game. Like, you know what I mean? It's different a regular season fill-in to whatever. Like, this is not even the Nick Foles thing. Nick Foles had a couple of regular season games, then the playoffs. We're saying, hey, man, we're going to drop you in the championship game, and we need you to play great right away.
Yeah. No, it's going to be a big challenge. Stidham is talented, though. Go back to when he was coming out and what we talked about just from a skill set standpoint. And I would be leery and we'll get into the previews of these games later, but I'd be leery if I was New England to come in with a heavy blitz approach because Sean Payton, if one thing he is a screen master, and he will have everyone in the playbook.
Everyone. And he's going to throw it up down the field to see if your guys that are exposed in coverage, if they can defend.
No question. Looking forward to that. All right, let's get to the Rams Chicago. Wild game, crazy throw by Caleb to force this thing into overtime. Rams end up holding on, a back and forth affair. I don't know what. I'll get your take on this one. I know Collinsworth was banging on DJ Moore for stopping on the crossing route that Caleb picked, but I was talking to another buddy of ours who has played the position in the NFL, and I always like to get their opinion on some of this stuff. And he was like, he knew he was dead in that play. Like, you can say like you got to run it out, but like that ball's not supposed to go to him, and he kind of knew that. So it was kind of he thought it was a little unfair, and it was bad decision by Caleb versus DJ Moore catching some strays for not running through that. It just, to me, I think it would have made more sense for Chicago, and we'll get to the Rams in a second. But where you were, you only need like 15 yards, and this is where, look, we've tried to make Caleb play from the pocket, and we're gonna do it. Not now. We need 15 yards. Get him on the perimeter. Get in his ear before the play. Hey, if you see any daylight, go take it. Go get it.
Yeah, like, it's funny, right? So I think 2 things can be true. 1, it was a bad read and a bad throw by Caleb. 2, it wasn't the greatest effort from DJ Moore, regardless of whether you do it like it still wasn't the greatest thing. So both things can be true. But I do believe you're right. And I'll say this. I think pro guys are a lot like high school guys. Sometimes you got to give them that last nugget reminder, like, hey, look at where we're at, situation. Yeah. Hey, 15 yards from the field goal. Hey, if you don't like it, throw it out of bounds or whatever. Like, hey, all we need 3 points. We can win this thing, but like, don't be a hero. And you're right. Hey, look, if it opens up, take it. Because here's what I saw from Caleb. And it was funny. I've seen him play a ton this year But DJ, there was a run where he took off in the middle and he pulls through a tackle.
Mm-hmm.
And it reminded me of the Oklahoma Caleb Williams, where he was running. I was like, man, I forgot. Like,
he is fast and he is strong.
And I had a buddy who coached against him when he was in high school. Because I was like, man, how is he? He said, Buck, I'm telling you, man, whenever this thing is backed up and he's in a corner, he always responds the right way. And in that game, DJ, I felt like you could feel him in these late moments in the postseason. You can see the boogeyman that he is going to be in these moments because he has some, I don't care in his game that I'm going to make these throws, I'm going to make these plays and do it. And you're going to have to live with some of the turnovers that comes with that kind of mentality. But he's wired the right way. I just, it's unfortunate for them. They did all that stuff to work and they needed to finish it. And they had an opportunity to finish it. And look, it's on the quarterbacks, on the coaches, on everybody to get it done. But they were that far from finishing. And Ben Johnson's perspective afterwards, when he said, I can't think about next year because no matter what we all think, you don't have momentum going into next season.
No.
You got to start it all over. And some of the magic carpet ride that you had this year is not going to exist next year. So how do you figure out how to improve the team and improve him? But you got to like what we've seen from here in year one under Ben Johnson.
Yeah, no, to me, just watching him in terms of the strength and the athleticism and the explosiveness, both as a runner and a thrower, kind of gave me like old school stay in the city of Chicago, like Derrick Rose when he was kind of coming on the scene there. And you're like, oh my gosh, this guy's got a little different bounce to him than everybody else that's out there on the floor, man.
Yeah, and DJ, I'll say this because eventually we're going to have these long conversations about like the draft and quarterback prospects or whatever. But man, I'm telling you, and the playoffs continues to bear fruit. Your franchise quarterback, if you're going to compete at the elites, you better have some superpowers. And it can't just all be processing. You better have some other stuff to get me out of a jam if I'm a play caller, because I can't call the perfect play the entire game. I cannot do it. And so whether we talk about Caleb, we talk about Drake, we talk about the people that we're seeing in this tournament, you have to have some of that stuff in your game.
Yeah, on the Rams, look, give them credit. I don't, and Sean had said after the game, he didn't call his best game. I thought they should have committed to the run game a little more than they did early. Yeah. They were getting 6 and 7 yards with both those backs. It felt like they were kind of chewing up some yards. And the other thing I would just say, look, the defense played great, especially for a long stretch there in the second half. They were just getting turnovers, 3 and outs, and playing really, really consistent. I think the front wasn't just a dominant front. I thought the secondary played much better than they have over the last month, which was a good sign for them. They're going to need that going into Seattle. But the other thing is, man, like Puka Nacua, I don't know if I'm trying to think of, can you think of other players who you would say, and I guess Jared Verse would be in the conversation, but I think I could make a strong argument. Puka Nacua is the toughest player on their football team.
100%. And you know what I love about what they do? When it's nut cutting time, he gets the ball. Yeah. Fly sweep, sight adjustment, which we don't really see a lot in our league. And I wanted to point that out. They play cover 0 against him. They bring the pressure off the thing. He does a sight adjustment. They throw it to him at 4 yards, and he gets the additional 4 just by being a tough guy. We've talked about this the last couple of years about how toughness has to be a core ingredient of whomever you bring in as a prospect. But as a wide receiver, him elected, no, I'm running through you. I'm not sliding. I'm not.
Hines Ward, Buck.
I mean,
reminds me so much of Hines. I mean, he blocks like Hines, like the whole
physical. Thing. Yeah, like everything. It is essential. It is a big part of who they are. And I will say this because a couple of years ago, I thought Devontae Adams was beginning to slip, and he does have some slippage in his game when it comes to route running. But that catch that he made on the boundary. Unbelievable hand-eye coordination, body control, and those things. What I love about the postseason, we are seeing some people at their best when it comes to some of the plays that they make. That was an unbelievable catch. And you're right. Sean McVay didn't have his best game because I felt like they needed to stick to the run. They could have punched the run in a little bit to control the game. And there was a segment in there where they kind of got pass happy. I just know this. Going to Seattle, they better be balanced because up there with the 12s, you do not want to get into one of these games where it's just throw, because Mike McDonald And the Seahawks, they are finding ways to unlock the codes. And the job that he did, and we'll get to this game, the job that he did against the Niners, DJ, if I'm a team that is playing Kyle Shanahan, I am studying those 3 games because to hold the Niners to 26 points in a 3-game span, I'm looking at all of the stuff that they did to try and figure out how we can put a plan together to get out the. I've never seen anybody dismantle. Look, they were hurt. I ain't never seen anybody dismantle them.
It was utter dominance, man. Gave up one drive, and then that was a wrap.
Yeah, I mean,
we can get to that game, 41-6. The other thing, as we're starting in this game here, Seattle, San Francisco, I'm glad we're going to get Rams, Seattle. It felt like those are the 2 best teams. I wanted to see that matchup. I did a little tweet showing Clubber Lang because it's got a very Rocky 3 vibe to it. What's your prediction for the fight? Pain.
Yes.
That's what it's going to be. It's going to be a war. I cannot wait for that game. And I was thinking from a Seattle standpoint, if you're a Seattle fan, you get a chance to get through both of your division rivals with the ultimate payoff being a chance to avenge a Super Bowl loss to the Patriots. Like all that's on the table here. Like that would, I don't know if there'd be a sweeter ride than that one if they were able to pull that whole thing off.
Yeah, the redemption tour. Yeah, because I'll say this, they gave away a Super Bowl to the Patriots when the ball's on the 1-yard line. They can handle the beast mode. They throw it and get the interception in. It's going to prevent a lot of dudes from getting gold jackets because they didn't get that second one done. That said, man, and looking at the job that Mike McDonald has done, and you will know a little bit more because you have people that were close to the ground, to him in Baltimore. I'll say this, DJ, like his command and his ability as a young coach. Now, I do know Leslie Frazier pretty well, and Leslie has done a really good job in his role as kind of like the advisor, confidant, or whatever. But he said Mike McDonald has the goods. He is right. They got it, man. And it's funny listening to Brock, where Brock talked about how they had to have some removal of players to fully be who they needed to be. M-O-B. Yeah. So so it's funny because we didn't get the chance to follow up, but like when Brock talked about DeMarcus Lawrence, right? And it's funny because this also came out when Micah Parsons went to Green Bay. Environment and culture is everything. Expectations, everything. Oh man, I can't believe he's running to the ball. Well, I am sure that there was a conversation when he got to Seattle. Hey, bro, run to the ball. Like, where maybe that didn't exist in his previous place. But in Seattle, they're like, hey, man, we expect everybody to run to the ball, get to the ball. People don't understand the value of coaching and how sometimes in the league, everybody doesn't get coached. But it certainly appears when I look at the Seahawks, 1-53, they're getting coached, and they're getting coached hard.
I also think, I think that DeMarcus played hard. Now, I think he wanted to go someplace where what he believed in was emphasized. And
I believe that,
and that's from a cultural standpoint. I think he went up there and found some like-minded guys and said, okay, this is where I belong. This is where I fit. And those guys want to come there and be a part of that.
And look, that can be a big part of it because when it's not right. You can look around in certain locker rooms and be like, oh, we don't have a chance. These dudes don't really everyone's not all the way bought in. But
even though he wasn't at a big school, he was at Boise, and that culture at Boise was the way it was supposed to look.
He knows what it looks like. And I believe that, DJ, they know, like, particularly if you come from winning programs, one of the reasons why we talked about scouting guys and getting guys from championship caliber programs that have won at a high level. They understand how the program is supposed to operate when you're winning and successful. He knows, and they do it. And look, that mentality, MOB that they talked about,
mission over BS.
Yeah, like just being able to understand that and to have a selfless team. And I'm gonna say this: we talked about toughness. I don't care what anyone says, and we don't know the severity of Sam Darnold's injury, but an oblique. But you know how we used to talk about the quarterback has to have a mentality of not over my dead body. Yeah, man, I don't care how I feel. I'm playing in this game. And I'm going to figure out a way to get it done whether it hurts or not. Give Sam Darnold credit. And luckily for them, they didn't really have to use him extensively. So he was able to get through it. But franchise quarterback has to show up. And I give him a ton of credit for showing up, regardless of the severity of the injury. To me, that matters. And I think it matters to his teammates because that toughness has to be shown from your franchise quarterback in some moments.
Yeah, tough loss for them, though, with Zach Charbonnet. He is done for the rest of the playoffs. He had been a great 1-2 punch there with Kenneth Walker. But, I mean, look, this is a team that's very physical. They're physical on the line of scrimmage on both sides. They're going to want to try and run the ball against the Rams. But, I mean, this game will require more of Sam Darnold than the last one did. He's going to have to make throws, which he did. And when they were able to beat the Rams at home a few weeks back, he's going to need to play the same way.
And I'm saying this, he's still going to have to vanquish some demons, because there's a feeling that I get from the Rams that they feel like they know Sam and that they can make the old Sam come up. And so even though he proved on that Thursday night game that, hey, I can take care of this, I can lead us back, he's still going to have to overcome that. But let me also shout out, because we know a friend of the program, John Snyder, mid-season trade, Rashid Shaheed. Like,
yep.
DJ, you know how we were talking about Buffalo, about pushing your chips in. And when you know it's there, and being able to look down the road and say, hey, what do we need? What do we need to get us over the top? And I will say this because they did it before. And this is where experience matters. You remember when they made the move for Percy Harvin, the first iteration?
Yeah.
Where they just needed, hey, man, we might just need another playmaker. Where are we playing? I don't know, but I know he can give us something in the third phase. Shaheed has given them that. He also has given them something a little bit when he comes in and makes plays. But that kickoff return to start the game, the energy that was created right away, that's why you make those trades. Give him credit, man. He has always been daring, but you remove the Pete Carroll thing, and now this is really his team where he's putting it together. Man, look, the draft that they just had, what they've done to develop, the way they've kind of built this, hats off to Snyder, man. I can't say enough good things about what he's done.
So I know that obviously John had the Super Bowl 2 appearances in the win there in Seattle. But if we take this conversation back, rewind a little bit, can you see maybe the Buffalo blueprint is actually Seattle? Pete had his run. Great job. Thanks for everything you've done. But right now we're going to just pivot a little bit and get some new juice, some new energy, and see if we can then make a deeper push. And it's obviously worked so far for Seattle.
Yeah. So now everything is the next hire. So the next hire matters. And I would say, like, everyone would talk about the Josh Allen thing in terms of it mattering. It's not only what you do offensively. I think the biggest thing is Sean McDermott was so heavily impactful on their defense. That defensive coordinator has to be a star, because he has to take what they have and elevate them to the next level. And so that hire, everyone's going to talk about offensively, but that hire, the person that takes over the defense that inherits with Greg Rousseau and all those guys, Epinesa, how can he get those guys to elevate their respective games? To me, that's really, really important. But you're right. They elevated after Pete. It got a little stale. Now, Buffalo didn't fall off like Pete and them fell off, but it elevated. Mike McDonald and Snyder have their imprint. So, this is an opportunity, going back to Buffalo, for Brandon Beane to put his thumb all the way on and say, this is what it should look like. This is what I wanted to look like. And we're going to be able to find a way to get it done.
Let's get to the last game here. New England, Houston. We've been talking the winning side of a lot of these games. And I think in this one, I think the bigger story coming out of this game was on the losing side, more so than it even was on the New England side of things.
So let me ask you this, because I didn't even have a chance to see your tweets or whatever. In this game, at halftime, would you put Davis Mills in the game?
Yeah, I've been in games, and this is I'm not trying to compare anything I've ever been through to what these guys have been through, but I have been on teams in college where they've come in and either I was a starter or the number 2, and it happened both ways. They've come in and say, hey, you're going to give you one series here in the second half, but you got to get it going. You better get this thing going, or we're going to have to make a change. And I've been on the backup side. It's like, hey, we're going to give him a little bit here, but the leash is very short. You better be ready to go.
Yeah. So now what's interesting about it, like I was looking at the discourse, and I was saying this the entire time. I was like, man, he is crushing their chances. And I was saying, like, man, 4 interceptions, put in the thing, a 28 passer rate. It's terrible. And it was a game.
It wasn't good the week before, Buck.
No, and so DJ, I saw like 5 interceptions, 5 fumbles. Now 2 of those were lost, but that's a lot of turnovers. And it wasn't just how bad it was. It was his body language and the way that he looked.
Yeah, that's a bigger thing to me.
He slumped shoulders. he looked like he was a little big for him. And so my first thing was like, hey, OC, like, hey, let's take some of this off of him. Let's run the football a little bit or whatever. And everyone's like, well, yeah, but they can't run it, whatever. I said, yeah, but you can't just keep throwing it. You can't throw it 26 times when he doesn't have a clue in the first half. And then I've seen Davis Mills because the second game where the Jaguars played the Texans, Davis Mills started. And he was fine, and he got hot the last quarter and a half. Mm-hmm. But I wondered in that game, I was like, man, I don't know, but I understand it, and everything is on the line. And so I was like, man, if you make this move, you have to be certain because
it's hard to go back. It's hard to go back after you make that. If you pull that pin. Yeah.
And so I understood why D'Amico was like, no, I got to stand firm. I got to stand 10 toes down in this because if I do this, it creates an even bigger issue in the offseason. But DJ, it's close. I mean, I was like, man, like, because my dad's texting me like, hey man, how much longer? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I mean, because as bad as it was, I kept saying, they're only 11 points down. They're scores.
Still in the game, yeah.
They're 2 scores.
They got a drive. They didn't finish it, but they had a drive coming out in the third quarter. But to me, even more so than the fumbles and the poorly thrown interceptions, there were some balls where it was like, dude, he got a guy in the flat. He's dirting the ball, like worm burners. I'm like, what is going on here, man?
He looked like Steve Sachs.
Yeah.
He had the yips. So now, DJ, here's the bigger question, right? So
you're not paying him. I can cut you off there if you're going to ask that question. That's getting kicked down the road.
So now you have 2 subpar years coming off of offensive rookie of the year thing.
Great rookie year.
Yeah, 2024, 2025, it's been bad. So you got rid of the coordinator after 2024. You got a new coordinator this year, and the results have been the same, if not worse. At some point, we got to look around and be like, hey, man, what's going on? So you got a 5th-year option. You can pick that up or whatever. But at no point can you talk about like the $300 million decision.
No.
You just can't do that. Like, no matter
how the elephant in the room, man. Look at Kyler Murray and look at Tua. Like I don't know, man. Like that didn't work out well when they signed the check with hope this works.
I just don't. I don't think, man. I don't think you can do it. Now, I'm not going to go this far and say, oh, you got to have a quarterback competition. But I think the best way to get them to compete is like, hey, bud, here's what we're going to do. We're going to pick up the 5th-year option, and then we're going to see. And even if it costs us more money, we'll gladly write the check if you make us have to write the check. Yeah. But we're not going to write the check now until you just have too much evidence of bad ball right now to lock in and say, hey, I'm signing up for this.
It feels interesting compared to like the Sam Darnold with the Jets decision, the Daniel Jones with the Giants decision, where I think with both of those guys, you saw good, but it was like and the Jets happened to be positioned at high end of draft. Now, obviously, it didn't work out. It took Zach Wilson and he bombed. And in hindsight, I think probably like a do-over on that one. Daniel Jones, they kind of tried to split the baby and did kind of a gap contract, like a couple years, not too much risk, but they committed to him. So it's an interesting decision that they have to make here, man. I think that's an odd, like you could try and say, okay, we'll do maybe a little shorter term one. I don't even know if you'd feel great about that coming off these 2 performances. I think you kind of just have to ride this thing out.
Now, it takes onions to do that. Yeah. It takes being able to stand firm and be like, hey, man, here's what we're doing. And you may have some hurt feelings in those things. Now, the thing that we don't know is how that room, that meeting room and how that locker room has been operated in terms of like hard conversations, tough love, and those things. So a lot of it would depend on how they get down when it comes to coaches and players and having that true discourse. But I just don't think you can marry yourself to that based on what we saw in the postseason. But even bigger than that, DJ, the last 2 years, because the last 2 years matter more than the postseason. That's just recency bias in doing it. But the last 2 years have not been great. And so we need to get to the bottom of why hasn't it been good since the rookie season? Mm-hmm. That's what the conversation has to be, because the two years in the postseason, it hasn't been good enough. But you don't regress like that. You don't have a great rookie year, then come back to the pack like the way that he is.
Let me ask you this question about a couple of these games. If Buffalo and Denver was played in Buffalo, does Buffalo win?
I think so.
If New England, Houston has played in Houston. Does Houston win?
Yeah, better chance of winning. Yeah, I think home field matters a lot.
I mean, in Seattle, I mean, I look, I don't think we just saw them play. The game was a lot more competitive, at least in San Francisco, than it was in Seattle. I think Seattle wins both places. And I think the Rams won close. I think the Rams probably would have beat Chicago pretty handily at home. If they were in warm weather with Stafford playing indoor, like that would have been. So that's my whole point, is that this is a great example of, hey, those games in the middle of the season, they matter. Home field advantage matters.
And I think you have to bring that urgency to your people. You have to tell them, like, hey, this is why it matters in those things. Even though the Jags lost the wild card round at home, DJ, I can tell you, man, it matters, man. There is something about it. And also, DJ, we're seeing all these games are 3-point games.
Yeah.
They're one-score games. And if I have I want to be at home. I want to be in the comfy confines of my own spot where I know the lay of the land. I can prep I know exactly what I'm dealing with. And that stuff, you want home. And I think now more than ever, going all in for the number one seed matters. But also, I can't get number one. I got to get number two. I got to have the opportunity to play multiple games at home to give myself the best shot of going to the championship game.
Yeah, I think I'm trending in that direction as well. Before we get out of here, Buck, we do have the national championship game tonight. Miami and Indiana. Who do you like and why?
Indiana's been so great. Like, their execution is flawless. They have been able to kind of dominate and do whatever. But you know who they've been. They've been Tiger Woods playing from ahead the entire time. What I would like to see from an evaluation standpoint, I would just like to see a little adversity. I would like to see, because we're going to talk about Mendoza, whatever, I would like to see him have to overcome something to do it. Not just for them winning the title, but a better evaluation. DJ, this is crazy because I heard this on the podcast, but I didn't know this. Like, in 10 of the 15 games that he's played, fewer than 19 pass attempts. Like, that's crazy to me, like what we're talking about. Fewer than 19. Yeah. Even the remarkable run in the postseason, DJ, we're talking about averaging 180-something pass yards with those 8 touchdowns. I want to see, from an evaluation standpoint, how does he play when it's on him over the course of a game? Just from that. But this game, Indiana is the favorite. They should do it. I think it's a narrow path of victory for Miami. But I will say this, the people that are sleeping on Miami up front, their front can give them problems if they can control the game early and if they're able to use their offense as their defense to kind of make it where they shrink the game and impose their will. But it's a narrow path to victory for Miami. I don't think this can be a shootout. It has to be a rugged affair, a grinded out affair where they can win in the fourth with Carson back playing.
I think the Miami offensive line is going to be bigger. To me, I think that's the difference. You've seen Indiana go up against some good defensive lines, but the big games they've played, Ohio State's offensive line, underwhelming. Oregon's offensive line, I think a little overrated. Alabama's offensive line, not up to Alabama standards. This will be the best offensive line that they've seen, and they're big. And if they can run the ball and move it that way, chew clock, you can get to a formula where Miami wins. I think obviously Indiana's the favorite because they're, make case the more complete all the way through 22 starters, maybe the most complete, more mature team. But they've got defensive line, include those edge rushers at Miami. And to me, the offensive line controls that game. That's the way they win it, if they win it.
Their physicality also stands out. Like, this has to be, they have to make it a violent, physical game. And they've done that. Now, remember, I don't think people are respecting their path enough. The teams that they've knocked off along the way, really good teams that have kind of prepared them for the battle. So if they can impose their will, much like I saw them do against Texas A&M and those things, they can get after it.
Yeah, if you look, they both played very close games with Ohio State. So I think it's an evenly matched game. So I'm looking forward to it. It should be a lot of fun. I don't really have a call in terms of who I think wins it. I think, there's more paths for Indiana to win, but I do think there's a way for Miami to get this thing done. And I know it'll be more Indiana fans there potentially than Miami fans because of how excited they are, but it is in their home stadium. You talk about familiarity. Miami should be right at home. Yeah,
familiarity is everything. And execution, I will say this, Indiana's execution is outstanding. The way that they play and they don't beat themselves. I think there are a lot of lessons that other college programs are going to learn. I think people have kind of cracked the code a little bit on how they're a 2x2 team. They're very static, and it reminds me a lot of the Indianapolis Colts and how we're going to be simple because we now know all the answers to all of the problems. The more variables we have by changing formation, the more difficult it is to prepare. I do think there's something to their simplistic approach and the high execution that they're able to play with.
No doubt. I'm looking forward to this one. Should be a fun one tonight. I'll also say, Buck, I'm getting close to filing a mock draft here. Getting close to filing my top 50. I have been jamming on players. I'm getting excited to start talking about some of these guys that we've been watching here. So that's coming up soon as we get into the real deep part of the offseason here.
Yeah, no, that's what it is, DJ. It's a goal each day to get X amount of players done. To look at all the stuff, to get the top guys in now. We got to mix in some of the All-Star game. I got the East-West coming up next week. You got a Senior Bowl coming up. And so that kind of takes us on a little bit of a detour. But yeah, talking about these top guys and getting ready for it, I feel great about it. It's going to be a fun process. The quarterbacks may not be the headliners that we like to talk about or whatever, but I still think it's a good draft. And you're right. I see you tweet about it every year. Wide receivers.
God dang, man. Every year. I mean, and you don't even know like who a lot of them are as you go through it and you watch tape. I'm like, that guy looks, he's a starter. Like that's a second round player right there. Watch next guy. It's a little different size, but it's a second round type player. A million of them.
Right. Like where are all the pass catchers like KC Concepcion, like pass catchers. Yeah. Pass catchers galore that are out there. And look, man, it's fun to talk about.
Yeah, we'll get into it. All right, that's going to do it for us today. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We do have I got a 40s and free agents thing coming up here with Rosenthal. So we're kind of going through the offseason stuff, talking about a little primer about salary cap space, free agency stuff, some draft stuff. So, Buck, we got, we're let Rosenthal in on the game here a little bit on the offseason stuff. But it's been fun. He's got to put out his free agency list. So that's always good conversation. All right, we'll see you next time right here on Move the Sticks.